Welcome back with your Dire Dungeon Master. Today we're going to continue on the Bestiary, the chimeric forms. We're going to mix the fox form with the pinchers of an insect called the Antlion. And so for this one, eventually I'm going to jump into ZBrush again, and so just be ready for that. But for right now, I'm happy just using Sculptress. It's still free. It still works on most computers, and so what we're going to do is find out how fast can you actually block in a 3D concept. So are you using 3D as part of your workflow? Because sculpting something, it's fast and it gives you a ton of information um, on a design that you're making. So let's see why speed sculpting and sketch sculpting should still be part of your workflow. Okay, and just a suggestion here, I recommend putting the pure ref on top of your interface and on the bottom left so you're not covering the um, interface. With the tiny interface of Sculptress or SculptGL, just make sure you move your even though it's on transparency, I maybe should lower it more. But there we go. So I had to turn up the detail. Remember, little detail gives you more triangles as you're creating. And I think the first thing I want to do is nail this kind of tilted head down shape. And we want to sculpt this as fast as humanly possible. So let's see, parameters for design are good. It's a good thing to limit what you're doing, right? Otherwise, could over design and flounder around on something for a long time. Never happens to any of us, right? No way. Of course not. And the closer you get, the more detail it'll add, which is an amazing feature. It's a really good way to hint max on ZBrush. So there we go. So I have it tilted down now. Right here, if it's tilted down too far, because that's what I was looking at here, I can go to my rotate tool, R, and if I have it on global, if I hit R a second time, I can, I can click inside and pull and get it a little bit more straight up and not with the nose tilted quite so far down. So that helps quite a bit in what we're doing here. Now I can tilt it the model to match any of these reference shots. But yeah, okay, so let's get all the big basic forms. So I have these really cool eyebrows right here. On the side, they have the fur that comes out the side over there. Go to this view here, still got the eye socket to deal with, so we still need to always push in your eye socket as one of your early designs. Want the basic shape of the skull. In the back here, I used to skip it a lot. Really, I think I've been bitten in the ass having my skull not be the right shape one too many times. So I'm now like where's way off. Kind of embarrassed at how off my cranium was. So the place that keeps the brain is actually crazy, incredibly important, right? Go back to my draw brush and bring out the fur. So we're going to add the fur and the flesh on top of this, and also go to my grab brush. Remember, if it's on a second time, you see the global turn off and on, and I can get to the right pull angle, and I can kind of pull some of this little fluff out. And I'm going to create pinchers for them. I'm going to make them as a separate object. So when I'm ready to do that, let's mask off the ear. Control key. Come in here, Control tap to reverse it. Go back to my grabber. Make sure it's not on. Or global doesn't hurt on this part because you want the whole thing. And it might take a few times, but yeah, it won't let you do it global, so you have to do it by hand. There we go. Remember, you have inflate is on all your 3D sculpting applications. It totally makes sense when something's collapsing in on itself. It's better to have a little fatty thing to grab onto there. Like the balloon analogy, balloon animal. There you go. And I can slowly bring it, nice, and they're usually forward facing. I think that's pretty iconic for the fox, and they're really huge and recognizable. So I'd say the ears are one of the prominent features. Now, when mixing forms together, this is where sculpting becomes, I think, just as powerful as drawing, because now I can start to think about, well, since I'm sculpting this so fast and it's just a little ball of digital clay, what features can we incorporate? So the first, we always look at features of sensory organs and the main kind of anatomical, the basic forms and shapes and planes. So in sculpting, you definitely are looking at all your basic shapes first, right? So you see I have like a triangle here in the snout and a round sphere back here. Some more triangular shapes should be forming out of the sides. Definite triangle in the ear, right? Some planes, some flat planes here on the front of the snout. Um, some raised areas for the bony protrusions. So you usually have a brow of some sort, a cheekbone of some kind, an upper mandible. In this case, you have the snout. It's the upper mandible. Bridge for the nose, and then he's got the cute little fox nose, so a little squarish, has its own shape to it. So whatever shape of nose the creature is or character, whatever design you're working on. The muzzle is included with the upper mandible. Kind of slides in the side here. You always have your flatten brush too. Don't forget flatten. In this case, F. And I usually have flatten. You could do S with a fall off angle as well. You can also lock it if you hit it a second time, and it'll get locked into the plane that you're on and force everything to that plane, which can be very, very useful, right, depending on what you're making. There we go. So I'll hit it. I don't want to lock on the plane most of the time, especially in these rough phases. Don't get precise, folks. I'm already getting precise too much. So right, crease, the reverse of crease alt. You want to bring out some changes in plane, and you also want to maybe separate some shapes using crease. So that's usually where you start coming in here. Opposite alt, the eyelids. And we're going to bring spheres in for eyes, so don't even worry about the eyes. Just get a close approximation. Sculpting an eyeball is silly. Like, you just make a sphere for it, right? Of course you can break any of these rules as I say them. A lot of it's for myself. Insectoid with mandibles coming out to the side of the cheek out here. Almost certainly we want to add some detail here where the fur is above the mandible, and then the mandible comes out like right here. It's a bug fox, right? I don't know what we're calling it yet. We'll come up with the name though, promise. You can use the grab brush, pull a little bit of tufts out. Don't go crazy early on. I did want to maybe put some antenna, some bug features. I started to, at least, right there. So as long as you have the strength up a little bit here, right there, and the detail right here, this is the detail underneath it, not the strength, even though it's right next to strength. This is the strength. So if your strength's too low, a lot of times you go with the grab brush and it won't grab much. If I turn that up though, about 80%, remember trying to max anything, now I can grab this and woof, it's gonna really give me a nice pool of detail. So I think it'd be fun to give them some, like, let's call them antenna ears, right? So I'll go out to the end here. If it gets jagged, just tap it a few times carefully. There we go. And I'm going to use the inflate brush, maybe trim up the detail a tiny bit more. So there we go. This is okay, adding detail. Whenever you get those sharp jaggeds, you want to kind of stop and swell them up a little bit. Now in this case, since it's an antenna, I'm going to look at one of these beetles, I think. And there we go. And then look at it from every angle. A lot of times it'll get locked on a plane. So like here, you want to go back to your grab brush, a nice big grab, and get a good arc. flow happening there. There you go. And uh, design-wise, I think we certain would have an appeal. Where I say cute gets used too much, and I think the correct word is appeal because I try to appreciate all art forms as much as I can because I think if I'm teaching, it's nice to be able to connect with another artist on what it is they like about what it is they're making. So for that reason, I make a legit attempt to like most artists, and so like Tim Burton has a good appeal, even though he's also creepy, right? And then there's Guillermo del Toro, and then there's um, Nintendo and Pokemon, right? And then there's it goes list goes on and on. Dark Souls versus or Bloodborne art style versus Final Fantasy art style, or make your comparison, right? So when you're designing, you want to think about what style you're going for. So on the reference board, we should have our style figured out. The style of the game or this story is mostly in regards to the year 800,000 AD or CE. And so that means we're having a lot of genetic mutations and creatures that are now have shared so much DNA they've evolved into different species. I think that's one of the main premises of the game. So to that end, uh, incorporating insect and fox anatomy together is a challenge. So I think the antenna, and if I look at it from almost every angle I can, I'll find flat spaces. So in organic forms, unless they have like some very specific crystalline structure, they should have all arcs, no straight lines anywhere. And I might want those to be a little closer to the top. I would even maybe take this and go all the way in with it like that. I think that's more fox-like. All right. And so that was a major arc change, like reversing arc flow from arc going this way to arc going up this way. So you're really looking for your arc flow and everything. And see, they're flat again right here. So get rid of the flatness. This living creature should be all arcs and they should flow in the right direction from every angle. Okay, so he's almost done. I could spend 5 or 10 minutes adding some detail, but I think we'll just, yeah, 5 or 10 minutes is good. Stick to what we said. Do the mouth. They have really identifiable um, smile, I think you would call it. It stops right about there. And you could even kind of upswing that arc just a little bit. And no sense adding detail in the nostrils or in the ear. We're just trying to get a close approximation to test this out. And then over here on the side, I think if we're doing like a real anatomy study, we'll have a totally different approach. Right now, we're trying to design, and that's something, and I think for myself, I have to remember is I think about anatomy too much, and so is it possible? Yes, I think most would agree that I do that. So it's because it's fun, right? And once you're good at it, or good enough, or you're happy with your end results, then it becomes really addicting because um, get your confidence, you feel like you can make anything, and that's when you get to that point, it's great. There we go. So I think for the insectoid, there was the other idea of maybe in the cranium, adding an extra eye up here, something like that. I don't know. Again, fur, don't get too detailed. It should never be symmetrical. And right now, it totally makes sense for us to keep everything symmetrical. I think I was going to put like an antlion eye out here, and maybe I should revisit that anatomy, but right here, so we'll extend the cheekbone and we'll add a whole area right here where the mandible comes out really close to the cheek right there. So I'm just holding control and doing a little masking swirl and then control tap on empty space. go back to grab, snap to the side view, and I can pull this mandible. Maybe it's too thick. It's almost like a tusk, right? There we go. I'll look at it from the bottom up. I haven't done enough of that. Spin it around at the right bottom. There we go. Yes, front. Am I upside down? That's top. I don't know about that. Oh, geez. All right. Anyway, so make them a little bigger and bring them in real nice and tight. I could go in. This would be one of those ones I'd forgotten originally. I was just going to model them separately just to make it really easy, but I think it helps to see how fast this is to make a major addition like this to the model and not have to sweat it too much, so to speak. And there we go. A little tighter, a little smaller. I don't want to get too small too quickly. There we go. And then from this angle, we're definitely going to correct some of those arcs in there, but for now, I can control and tap an empty space. That'll free this up, and I can control swipe, and that completely frees it up. Okay, so now we have a few things to do to finish this off. Going to finish that new skeleton. Woo, it's a regular draw brush. Finish that regular skeletal anatomy. So I think shrinking in some of this size of the mandible from the beginning, I think it was too big, so I'm holding shift, kind of swelling that down a bit, and then use a flatten brush and kind of maybe flatten the top of it and have it kind of get some chiseled angles on there. So flatten and crease become a big help here, especially when you're transitioning two objects that are intersecting. So where the mandible inserts into the jawbone or side of the cheek is pretty unique. It's a design thing to figure out, and so it helps to figure that out also in I think the sculpturing phase. So it's one of the things on my checklist. I would say, okay, am I doing this? Am I exploring this part of the concept with this tool and this medium in this way, right? Because after having practiced and tried so many different ways of doing things, it's good to have a few go-tos in your toolbox, and that is your process, and that's what we're establishing for everybody here is, okay, I'm going to show you my process, and then you please make your own process so that you are completely independent. Um, there we go. Flattening it out on the bottom and then get over here to the inside. Yeah, I should have just done these separately, but it's all good. Maybe a 3 plane change intersection on the top if I have too many or too few. It's becoming too geometric. Although I'd say leave those geometry lines for as long as you can, because they really help make for a better design. There we go. So I'm kind of getting the sharpness to the end pincher, shift to smooth. Remember, it will round it out as more than it will sharpen up a lot of times. There we go. His nose is a little fat. With a grab brush and maybe bring that in the snout. And then finish off the eyeball, and I think we're good. So I'll have 2 sets of eyes, which a lot of my creatures have. And yes, Cameron and Del Toro both do that, and I'm a huge fan of both of them, but I also have been doing this for many years. It's not that original of a motif, so you feel free to put in design motifs that you think maybe are someone else's signature. It's okay to still have your own signature. without fear of you're copying someone else. For me on this design, it's to make it more insectoids. I don't know if I like this or not. But you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it anyway. Okay, so I'm going to export this. So first of all, always be sure and save your work. And before I move on, I'll add just a little more symmetry here between the bony protrusion of the eyebrow up here, that little top notch of the skull. So we're kind of we're making up something here, right? So might as well. Accentuate that, or at least try and make it work a little bit better here on the second eyebrow. So I'm gonna bring that out and around. And then maybe bring some of these tufts of fur back. And I mentioned not going crazy with the tufts of fur. So just a volume when it comes to the fur. Just keep it volumetric. Don't we'll start doing locks too quickly. Right. I also mentioned my struggles with the skull. I'm looking at this here for just a moment, and that's why I was kind of thinking, how's this going to work? Where's the neck going to connect? The neck comes up and underneath. But we'll look at that in more detail later. So I think for now, I think just finishing off that shape and maybe going in with the big grab brush, zoom way back. Nice big one, and try to limit how wide it gets because we still want the fox anatomy to be dominant with the insect anatomy, and we want to keep that nice and narrow shape to the head, even though now the both his ears and mandibles have made him significantly higher and wider, right? So I'm going to be conscious of that. There we go. Okay, it's really wrapping that around the side there. And it got a little lumpy, and that's because of the cheekbone mixed in with trying to do tufts of fur, mixed in with the extra muscles we're going to add for the mandible. So we're going to draw that out. Sculpting it at first is fun. It's like, okay, let's sculpt it, and then we'll figure it out with the drawing phase, which works really well for me. So see those little fur tufts, get rid of those. All right, I think that's good enough. We could pull just a bit of a neck out too. It's up to you. Sometimes it's just fine having the head all by itself. And I go back and forth depending on what I'm making. Oh, there we go. You know, is the neck going to help me, or is it going to give me just more anatomy to worry about? So depending on how much you've studied the subject ahead of time, we can figure that out. I think for the design I had, he had an extra long neck, but that his body's a lot lower to the ground, so it's not going to have, I think the skulls may be going to connect differently. He's going to be a much flatter creature than previously thought. I'm going to make the whole thing, aren't I? Can't help myself sometimes. Yeah, that's the good and the bad. Like when you feel in it, and you feel the inspiration, cool. But so I said, do it if it makes sense. And then when I ask myself that, I now try to exhibit enough self-control to say, if I ask myself that I should keep going or not, that means stop for now, because especially if I'm showing a process, right? There we go. Yeah, the two eyes play off each other. Not too bad from the side view. I hadn't looked at that enough. And from the top view, just like he has wider cheeks than a regular fox. There we go. From the side view, again, underneath, you can't really tell much yet. I just pulled that neck out, so now I would say, all right, well, let's make sure he has a throat. That's the least we could do for him. Throat and basic muscles, the mastoid processes, and make sure the arch for the spine's going the right direction. So what did I do? Oh, I'm on the draw. It's funny. I was grabbing the whole time. I was just doing the draw. Like I see it moving a little bit. Okay, and again, haven't really thought about the volume of the fur on there, and we might, reduce some of the poofy fur, maybe have it sticking through some shell-like parts of from the insect body. Because so far he's looking more fox, but I think we added antenna to the sculpting phase, and we added a second set of eyes. Could even do a third set of eyes, but I don't know. I think for right now we'll call that done, and we'll bring it over to the other one. Okay, so I imported the Morfox model, and I was indeed working upside down. How about them apples? All right, so the right side up, nice 180, and of course it's gonna tend to be some micro size, so we'll beef it up. So left side. Okay, that's the front. Good. And the gizmo's still locked in for its old coordinate point. So what do? We scale up, we freeze it, and deletes history. There we go. So now I have it facing to the front. Can pop that off. And we have something to start on. And I think working out the head and the skull is the first, and we'll do the whole body skeleton as well. But for the sake of this exercise, we're just gonna get it approximated. So I'm gonna take this model. I don't need the grid for right now, and we're gonna do a mesh retopologize. So that's under mesh. Retopologize, and we're gonna limit it to, we'll say 20,000 triangles. That should be plenty. Keep it symmetrical, yes, for now. Make them asymmetrical a little bit farther down the pipeline just to make everything easier. And then we'll retopologize. Usually get an error. I just ignore it, and it usually works fine. I went through some tutorials on that error message, and I couldn't see much difference. Yeah, there we go. That's nice. Pretty good. Little basic mesh to sculpt on to start with. At least we could UV map that and actually get some function out of it. Sorry about the zooming in and out spasms. That never looks good on camera. There we go. So alt right mouse button going slowly. Okay, so we can drop some eyeballs here and here to the side, and we can place some UV maps on it and bring it into substance for painting. So I think that's important to understand. So if I take this same model and we'll go mesh, and actually let's make sure, just for shits and giggles, freeze it, delete its history one more time. Go mesh, retopologize, and let's drop it down from 20,000 to, let's say, 6,000. That should be fine. Tab out of there, retopologize, ignore. Okay, so we're gonna have three versions of this really. So we have a rough sculpture that's all triangulated and has the original 65,000 triangles. You can see how it kind of dynamically added the edges where we needed them for new higher poly stuff. So we have this one that we brought into first retopology. I think side by side, this would be perfectly fine to take back and subdivide it. It's all quads. It'll subdivide nice and it won't get all chunky. And we could use that. But I think this one is probably most useful for now. It's nice and low poly. It's only 11,000 triangles, and we'll have an easy time, since it's symmetrical, cut in UV maps on this character head. So, because what we're going to do is we're going to do a substance painter test on this. So we're going to do a lighting and materials test. So we're going to identify the parts of the model that have different materials. So we're going to identify the eyes and the nose, the mandibles, and then I think we're going to start separating out like chitinous skin, like shell feature of that we'll see on the insect DNA in there, and then we'll do mostly fox fur with some skin. Also thinking the lips and the ear, the tips of the antenna might have different materials on them. We'll kind of see how that goes. But we're going to do a clown map. So for the next phase of this, we're going to do a UV unwrap and lay it out so that we can bring it into Substance Painter. Of course, that would include also going up here to materials. And we're going to create a clown map material library to apply to the different materials on here. So when we bring in the substance, it already has the UV shells and it already has there's a UV editor, and it'll already have the materials IDs made for us. Okay, we'll see you on the next video.